Welcome back to another episode of After the License, the podcast where we help real estate agents build their business. I'm your host, Jeff Bittner, and excited we have a guest on today, Ryan Ehler. I hope I'm saying that correctly. He's a mortgage professional lender, excellent, out here in the Phoenix area. And I wanted to bring him on to talk about some things from the other side of the business, right? So we talk a lot about real estate agents and building their business. And we've talked with a lot of real estate professionals on how they're building their business. But I think as a new agent, one of the sides of the business that just doesn't get talked about a ton is how do we utilize and meet some vendors, right? Some of these other third parties like a lender. So Ryan's a good buddy of mine out here in Phoenix. I figured we'd bring him on and talk through some of that stuff. So welcome to the show, Ryan. You're out here in Phoenix. How long have you lived out here in the Phoenix metro area?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Jeff. I'm actually native, so I've been here for over 37 years.
I love it. I'm also a Phoenix native, so there's a few of us awesome out here, a few and far between, which is great. So let's start off with what made you get into real estate, just the real estate industry in general. What kind of drew you to it, and what led you down this path?
Yeah, I'll try to make this quick. So it was right after college. I went to actual real estate school, and I made the huge mistake of not going with a mentor. So I had a guy that said, hey, I'll mentor you. You're not going to make a lot of money for the first year, but you're going to learn the ropes. And then I had this other company that was just like, show me the glitz and the glam. Hey, we'll do your business cards. We'll do this. We'll do flyers. We'll get you, your signposts and all this stuff. And boom, it fell apart. Nothing. Like, I didn't learn anything. I never did a single transaction, which is probably the norm for most people that get their license. I need to make money. So I went into personal training and just let my license go. So, years go by, open up a gym. I'm training, people. We own our own place. And one of our clients, long-term clients, was a mortgage lender. And he was like, man, with the marketing you do, you have this little spot. It's a building behind a building with no sign, and this place is packed. If you took your marketing and your skills with video and that and put it into mortgages, you'd probably add 1 to 2 zeros onto your income. And I was like, for real? And he's like, yeah. So within a month, I was licensed as a loan officer. And long story short, I've been doing this for about 4 years, and it's completely changed my life.
I love it. So did you shut down the gym? Do you still have that as kind of a side hustle, or what does that look like?
I wanted to go 100% all in. So we got rid of the gym, and we've been 100% mortgages. So my wife and I are our team. So it's been great because we ran the gym together, and now we do the mortgages together.
That's fantastic. What kind of marketing were you doing for the gym? I know now you're kind of big into video and some Facebook stuff. I mean, what you were doing for the gym back then as well? Kind of big into video, or?
Exactly. Video, social media. And I just transferred it over to this side, real estate mortgages. And all of the older guys were like, dude, you're wasting your time. Get on the phone, grind the phones. I don't know what you're doing, just shooting videos all day. And I gotta tell you, videos work 24/7. That's the beauty of video. So they work for me, whether I'm awake, I'm sleeping, I'm working, I'm playing. And it really takes a lot of stress off of knowing where like your next deals are coming from when you have videos out there doing the heavy lifting for you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that's how you and I got connected, right? We're both part of that RETV Facebook group. So for anyone who's interested in kind of YouTube video real estate stuff, it's a fantastic group. And I saw a bunch of Ryan's videos and was like, oh, this is someone I wanted to be connected with. And I think Facebook messaged you, and the rest is history. So I couldn't agree more with kind of the marketing and branding side of it, just the video stuff in general. It lives forever. And so much of what the consumer is looking for is video because it's interactive and you get to know someone before you actually kind of meet and talk with them. So I think that's fantastic. So awesome. Let's jump into some of these kind of, lender questions. And again, we've got a lot of new agents or newer agents who kind of watch this show and the podcast. So maybe let's, start there. So if someone's brand new to real estate, like at what point in time do you recommend they connect with a lender, right? And start to network and look for a lender? Like, what does that look like for you from a lender's perspective?
Day one. I mean, you have to be a team. At the end of the day, most people aren't getting a house alone. And so you want to make sure that you're partnering with somebody that you trust and that they know what they're doing. But also with that, you don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket. Different lenders are going to specialize in different things. And if any one lender says they can do everything well, then that's a big red flag in my book. Most people are set up and they have the knowledge and the expertise in certain areas. And that's what we've chosen to do is, like, I tell my agent partners, right up front, here's the things that I'm really good at. If it's outside of my box, I'm going to help your client know, and hey, here's another person you might want to look into that specializes in this. And that way the client is getting the best experience. So I'd rather turn down a percentage of the potential business that comes in to make sure that I'm only doing the things that I'm an expert at, so that my clients get the best experience, if that makes sense.
100%. And when we connected, that was one of the things I really enjoyed about kind of our conversation, right? Was your upfront and honest opinion about some of that stuff. And so, I think that's great advice is, as soon as you get in the business, I think an agent needs to figure out who are they going to be working with, whether it's, a title company, it's a lender, right? It's all these kind of partners that they're essentially going to have. And I liked your point about kind of, you're a team, right? It has to be kind of if someone's reaching out to you and has mortgage questions and you're not already connected with a lender, you probably should have a little bit sooner, right? So one, you kind of recommend they should go out and start to connect with lenders. Do you have any recommendations like where they could go? Just do a Google search. I mean, we obviously found each other through a Facebook. Any resources there on kind of how they can connect with a good, just talking to their agents, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think all of the above. And the first thing too is, when you are connecting with these lenders, is you have to know, what are their fees? What are their rates? Like, what's the real end numbers going to be? Because that's going to impact you as an agent. If someone has exorbitant fees like a Rocket Mortgage, Quicken, it's going to be a lot harder for you to get someone into a house these days when they're having to pay for all the closing costs and 99% of the transactions now that the sellers aren't paying those. So if the person you're working with has high rates and high fees, then that's going to make it tougher for you to get the transaction done. And it may not necessarily make you look good if you're referring somebody that has, super high fees and the rates maybe are not comparable. So make sure you're asking those tough questions up front. And then in terms of finding them, is places like this, is you're watching different resources online. You're going to network with other agents that have relationships already. Facebook, you can go on there and just kind of combining those few things and having those conversations and trying to find someone that you connect with as a person and is also good at their job. Because there's nothing worse than, let's just face it, we all don't connect the same. And it's a lot easier to get a transaction done when you enjoy the person on the other side and you can be 100% straight up and honest with them. And you don't have to worry about, saying something wrong or making them upset. It's like when you're talking to a friend, you're not really worried about how you're saying things. You just say them as you, and they don't take it personally. So I think finding that, sometimes it takes a while to find those people that you really connect with. So don't just stop at the first person you connect with. Make sure that you're constantly networking.
I love that. And I think from a new agent perspective too, you don't realize that there has to be that relationship there. You have to kind of, it's not just you pass off a client and you never hear. It's constant communication, and oftentimes, and things come up, right? Like with any transaction, just like there's issues that come up between a buyer and seller, like, there could be appraisal issues. There's timing with a lot of different stuff. There's costs to all of these things. You got to get paperwork to title and all those things. There's a lot of communication that has to happen. So making sure you have a good relationship with whoever you're working with and whoever you're going to refer someone to is, I think, really, really good advice. So is there anything else you recommend someone should look for in a partner, like a lender partner? I mean, we hear a lot of stuff in the real estate community of, some lenders pay for things or offer services, or, like, is there anything specific, above and beyond just like having a good connection, I think, and having low fees that someone should be looking for, in a lender?
I would look at it as dating versus marriage, right? If you went up to somebody and said, hey, you want to get married, and they've never met you before, they're completely turned off. That's the same way as if you come to a lender and say, hey, will you pay for my Zillow? You know, it's like you're leading the relationship off and you're skipping all these steps. I don't think there's anything wrong with co-marketing and co-branding and doing things together, but that's something that's earned throughout the relationship, that you trust each other, that you know that the deals are going to get done, they're going to get done the right way. And that's not just you to me and me to you. It's both ways. And so I think that's where a lot of people fall into these like subpar relationships, because it's all transactional based rather than experience based. And my number one recommendation is your clients have to come first above everything else. So if the lender is going to give your clients an amazing experience and they're going to refer you a ton of business, that's way more valuable than somebody throwing you $1,000 a month or $500 a month towards Zillow ads, because you're going to have to grind these hard leads and maybe get some deals out of them, or you can get referrals where people already know, like, and trust you, and the deals are going to come a lot easier. So I really want to push people to think outside the box when it comes to this. It's, you know, we're still in a relationship business, and even though we can do a lot of it on the internet, most of it is done through connection over the phone in person. And there's no better way to do that than building that relationship with your lender partner and your title partners and trusting each other. And then as you build that trust, then you can all look at going in on something that's proven to work, not just throwing dollars at things like, oh, I saw this shiny thing. And we all get caught in that syndrome, especially when we're new, because we're clawing to get business, right? We're just trying to find a way to make it work. But, you know, do the steps the right ways, build those relationships first, and then grow into paying for marketing and advertising. You try to do it the other way around, you're most likely going to go broke even with them helping you out.
100%. Couldn't agree more. And to your point, I think the relationship and ultimately how the lender partner that you're working with treats your client is way more important than anything they could kind of contribute from a marketing standpoint, you know? And I think that's a good way of kind of looking at your lender partners and how you evaluate them is, you know, this person's going to be an extension of you, the agent, and the best lenders, right, make a good impression and even kind of raise up the agent a little bit, right? Is kind of a, you know, you're working together as a team and the client sees that. And so if you just kind of put marketing dollars or, you know, I've seen it all with lenders, right? Like some people just go with the lender that goes to the most happy hours, right? And it's not
right.
always about the client. Whereas if it's the client and it's about their experience and it's about the relationship you guys have and they have with, you know, the consumer, I think it goes a lot further that way. So I think that's excellent advice. So as we think about kind of new agents, like what are some of the, you know, the things that you've seen agents do that maybe they shouldn't do, right? Like, you know, I think as a new agent, a lot's new, right? And they don't always know the bounds of what a real estate agent should do and what a lender should do. And what are some of those maybe horror stories or advice that you have for kind of agents staying in agent's lane and things they should pass off to a lender? Like, do you have any advice or recommendations on that, or even stories?
Yeah. I think the hardest thing is from the agent side, you get so invested with the client before you even know if they're capable of buying. And so you get so one-sided towards their story, and that's all it is a story. Until a lender has documents and can verify that they're qualified, they can't buy anything. And so I'm not saying that you shouldn't go show people without you know, a pre-approval. It's probably smarter the busier you get that you don't until you know that they're verified. But you can't get upset with a lender that you trust if someone's just truly not qualified for what they want to buy. So they might tell you, hey, I make 10 grand a month. I have no bills. I should be able to buy this, no problem. And then all said, you know, it comes back, they own a business. They write 90% of it off. They don't make any money. They have a ton of debt and the numbers just don't work. So I would say that's where the relationship even comes more important with your lender. And getting people to them sooner than later, so that you're not investing too much time into somebody that's not qualified to buy. And then you feel like you're so overinvested, you have to find a way to make something work that just can't. So I think that's one thing. And then the next thing is, I wrote this down because it's really important, is make sure that when you're getting a pre-approval letter, the lender you're working with, they actually get documents. You know, I would say there's I don't know the percentage, but it's high. A lot of people will just get an online app and just give the approval based off of what the app says without looking at documents. And that piece of paper is worth zero. And all it's going to do is make everybody look bad in the end. The client can't qualify. So make sure that the lender they're working with, whether you referred them or they're using their own, that you need to call that lender and say, hey, this pre-approval, have you looked at the docs? Have you looked at their income? Do they have the funds? Because that's going to make everybody's life a lot easier before you go out shopping. And then one layer further than that is once you are putting in offers and writing contracts, you want to confirm with the lender that how much funds and what the situation is and what they're qualified for before you write the contract up, because you have to make sure what's their actual purchase power based off of the area they're looking in, including taxes, insurance, HOA, all the fees, making sure their debt to income ratio works for them. And then also how much cash they have available for the down payment, for earnest money, and in these days, an appraisal gap. So I've seen a lot of people lose their earnest money because an offer was written up and the person doesn't qualify, and then the lender just didn't catch something along the way. And so luckily it's never happened to me, but I hear these horror stories of they're past their 10 days and the client just has to give up like $3,000 to $5,000, which could be a third of their life savings because someone just dropped the ball.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think so a lot of great advice there, right? And so when you're talking about too with the purchase power, and this is great advice for new agents is, even if a lender tells you so-and-so's approved up to $350,000, as you mentioned, there's a lot of factors into that, right? If there's an HOA or if the taxes are higher or if there's some other kind of additional cost that gets wrapped up, then maybe they're not approved for $350,000, right? And so, even if you get kind of an initial approval for that, what I've done working with some of my buyers is, if we're right at the top of that, before we write an offer, I check in with the lender and say, hey, on this particular house with these taxes and this HOA, and interest rates are adjusting every single day, right? Where it's like, what's the highest we can go to, right? So sometimes just checking in too, I think is, do you have agents that kind of do that before they actually write an offer, just kind of confirm the person's okay for this X amount on this particular house?
All the best agents I work with do that. And we're trying to take it a step further. So we're actually getting a custom app built that'll be like in the App Store where the client will put their profile in, they have their application, they put their documents in. We issue a qualification criteria through the app. So you as the agent and the borrower can go in there and change parameters for specific properties. And it will allow you to actually print out your own pre-approval based off of the parameters we set. And and we usually put a buffer in there, right, to make sure, like you said, if there's going to be any variance. But once you put in taxes, HOA, everything like that, homeowners insurance, you put the different parameters in. If it goes past that threshold, the system won't allow you to generate a pre-qual anymore. And it says, hey, give us a call. Let us look into this and make sure it'll work. So when you're on the fly and you're with a client on the weekend and you're looking at 15 houses, you don't want to have to call on every house, because you're in the moment, you want to boom, boom, boom. This app will allow you to be able to just plug it in and know right away, yep, you guys are good for this one. We're good for this one. And then at the end of the day, you can put an offer in and you can just generate the pre-qual form right from the app, and you don't have to worry about trying to contact us on the weekend or at night or something like that. So we're super excited for that piece of software that we're going to have soon.
That sounds fantastic. I'm sold, Rad. That sounds great. And I love that you said kind of the best agents check in, right? Because you have to make sure, right? Because like you said, the last thing you want is you'd hate to write an offer, get it accepted, and find out someone's not qualified. You can run into, you can get into all the hot water there. And then the other thing you mentioned was kind of, making sure you're working with people who are pre-qualified. And that's always been true, but it feels like in 2021, in the last year and a half, it's especially true, right? With how hot the market is. Do you have any tips on kind of ensuring or trying to get people to get pre-approved, like scripts or thoughts on that? Like any of your agents have some good tips on just getting people pre-approved? Or is it just being honest with the clients and saying, hey, we're in a crazy market. We can go look at a bunch of homes, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't have a pre-qual letter. Any thoughts on that?
Transparency is always going to be your best solution over everything. Just letting them know, hey, here's what's going on. You can use whatever lender you want. I like this lender for X, Y, and Z. Like, they're honest. They have good, solid rates. They don't have fees, whatever it is. And then that we can trust their numbers and that they're going to shoot us straight. And we're not going to run into any issues. Along with that, the lender needs to be willing to call the listing agent and verify how qualified the client is when you're putting an offer in. So we've won countless deals that way, where maybe we weren't the highest, but we were able to close the quickest and have that peace of mind that the deal's going to get done. A lot of agents are getting savvy now to these cash offers that they come in way high and then they say they're not going to negotiate, and they either just pull out or they do negotiate, and then it's a crazy mess right now. So the more people that you can have as an advocate to your client, to the listing agent, letter stating about why they want that house and why it's going to be so important to their life and their family. There's all these little things that you can do to be able to bring your client's offer to the top of the list.
And being that advocate, I think, is huge, right? And I think that's part of being a team. And so the best lenders I've worked with do that not only for the offer, but also do that for the clients too, right? Where it's just like, hey, just so you know, Jeff referred you over to us. We love working with Jeff. Jeff's great, and just having those little kind of, pieces of reinsurance, whether it's to the listing agent and the listing and the seller, or to the buyer when you work with the buyer. So having a team mentality and making sure you have a mortgage professional or someone, a part of your team that does those things, I think is fantastic. So, yep. That's great. Any other pieces of advice you have for agents, either starting out or in the business for a while? Any other thoughts on, or any other thoughts on, like, a lot of new agents maybe don't know what they should or shouldn't talk about in terms of like loans and stuff. Like, for me, I just try and keep all loan stuff to the lender. Is that kind of the recommendation you have, or what are your thoughts on that?
100%. Anytime it's technical, I would just defer to your lender, because that reduces your liability. But you do want to make sure that you're not wasting your time or your lender's time. So make sure they have a solid full-time job. I would ask, have you saved up? Like, where do you think you're going to do for down payment? You're just going to use savings, or what was your thoughts there? And just kind of those basic questions that help you kind of figure out what ballpark they're going to be in terms of what they're going to be buying, right? So, one of the main things is down payment. The down payment's going to be one of the biggest limiting factors of what they can qualify up to. So whether they're putting 3% down conventional, 3.5% FHA, 5% conventional, 20% conventional, you can just reverse, do the math, and then you'll know how much the potential buying power of that down payment's going to be. And then if you have questions, you just defer to the lender.
Right. But having that transparency up front and having that conversation with that potential buyer of, hey, this is a real thing that you're going to have to come up with, right? If we go put an offer on a house, you're going to have this money, as soon as possible, right? So do you have a plan for that 3 or 5 or, 10, 20%, whatever it looks like? And so having that initial conversation, I think, is a great piece of advice, and kind of having that initial knowledge too. And I think that's part of what working with a good lender is about too, is, talking through, okay, what are the available programs there? What are those down, payment percentages look like? Like, what kind of expectations should I set for my client? And so kind of building that relationship, I think, is powerful too in that respect.
Yeah. And I would say, along with that, I think one of the biggest traps that I fell into when I was new was trying to find these like down payment assistance programs and shortcuts to loans and things like that attracted the overwhelming majority of people that attracted were people that couldn't afford a house, no matter if they were trying to use down payment assistance or not. So it sounds sexy, but it will end up making you spin your wheels and doing a ton of work that doesn't turn into paychecks. And so networking and being around people that have the ability to purchase, that have full-time jobs, that maybe have 2 people in the household that have 2 full-time jobs, will make your life so much easier in the end and lead to more close transactions than just busy work.
Yeah, 100%. And maybe you can talk to this too, right? So the occasional situation where someone doesn't have the best credit, or is limited in their buying power to start out, right? I think one of the pros of talking to a lender as soon as possible and encouraging your clients to is figuring out that in the beginning, right? And then, do most lenders they can kind of give you that advice of, hey, your credit isn't where it needs to be, and it needs to be 20 points higher, 50 points higher, right? Most lenders can kind of do that. Most good lenders can kind of talk through that, or at least kind of give that guideline to a potential buyer, right? And so that's one of the pros of actually talking with your client, understanding the expectations, and then kind of getting them to a lender to kind of talk through some of that stuff, right?
Right. And it's all about experience. You want to make sure the lender you're working with is experienced. So I always have that conversation right up front is, hey, where do you think your credit score is? If we're close and we're in the ballpark, awesome. Let's do an application. Let's run the credit. And then if we're a little off, we have something called a credit analyzer that gives us some quick things that we can do to get that score up. If we're outside of what the analyzer can do, then I have a preferred credit specialist company that I refer them to that's very aggressive of following up and making sure that they're staying with them and helping them do the things to get the score up. So it's all about just putting, like you said, educating them and putting them in the right position based off of what their specific scenario is.
I love it. That's great. Awesome. I cut you off for you. Any other advice you have for agents, or any thoughts on that side of it?
Let's see. I might be going ahead here, but I read your notes, I think. So routines, right? Yep. I really wanted to go into the routines. Here's the thing is, we're our own bosses, right? A lot of people maybe have never run a business before and aren't used to having to dictate their own schedule. And it's easy to get caught in the trap of just doing busy work to think you're busy. And you're not alone here. I still catch myself doing those things because it's easier to be busy than be productive. So here's what I found in this type of a business. There's only 3 ways that you can get clients. One is you talk to them in person, door knock, network, just the handshake type of deals. 2 is you get on the phone and you have conversations on the phone. Or 3, you create videos that generate the first 2. That's it. There's no other way that you're going to get business. Is you have to have in-person and phone conversations and figure out a way to generate those. That's it. So every day that you start out, you should be planning on what are the things that are going to make those conversations happen. So what I have is the top 3 things on your to-do list every day should be make prospect calls. So if you have certain people that you've been, your hot list, that people that have said they're interested, that you said you follow up with, don't miss those calls. Put them in your calendar, make those calls first thing in the morning while you're fresh and you're excited to start the day. Then if you want to go into more prospecting calls that are a little bit deeper down, or even cold calls, that would be next. Next thing on your list to do could be make a video. And, I am a huge proponent of at least 1 video a week educating your sphere about just real estate in general. And, number 3, the next thing you want to do is do some sort of networking event, door knocking, whatever it is to try to get in front of people. And it doesn't mean you have to do all 3 of those every day, but I think your day should start with one of those. And that's the main focus of your day, is to get that done as soon as possible, because those are the things that are going to lead to closed deals, nothing else.
Fantastic advice. And I love talking about kind of the routines and the productivity stuff. And I love your advice of doing video and figuring out, how you can shoot and kind of get content out there, because content is king in a lot of ways, right? In more ways than one. So I'm going to ask you about your videos. So, I know you do, so I see a lot of your stuff on Facebook. Is that the primary place where you're putting some of your videos, or do you also doing it on YouTube? Yes. Or what's your recommendation there?
That's my biggest regret, is not doing YouTube 4 years ago. YouTube is a whole different animal. Facebook for me is extremely easy because it's short. Facebook, Instagram is between 15 and 1 minute videos. So you can just boom, 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 boom. I can crank one of those out within an hour. And that's if I'm doing editing and things to it. If you're just sitting there on the phone and you're just instantly posting it, it literally takes you 5 minutes. However many takes you have to do to get it done. But it's short-lived. That video doesn't live very long, maybe 48 hours, at the most. Whereas YouTube, those things live forever. And if you get into the algorithm, people are going to bring those up. And I know someone, we just looked her up. I think she did 14 million in business from YouTube, like in her second year, with only 1,000 subscribers. So it's hugely powerful. And the thing with YouTube is you got to do 5 to 12 minute long videos. So it's more planning, it's more work, but you're going to have, it's almost like a savings account. YouTube, you're putting it in for a later date. It's not going to work right away like Facebook and Instagram. And I think that's what was tough for me. I wasn't seeing much of a result. I didn't know what I was doing, so I just gave up on it. And then every time I try, it's kind of the same thing. And then the older I get, the more I'm realizing like, oh, that's my savings account. Like I've been very short-sighted because I just get an instant result on social media. But it's short-lived, and it's harder to get organic reach now. And advertising on there is getting more expensive, where on YouTube, it's all free. You don't have to pay. You just have to create good content. And here's the crazy thing. The girl I was telling you about, she barely even adds anything to the videos. It's like talking head. She sits there and just talks for the most part on a lot of the videos. So it doesn't have to be revolutionary. It's just, you just got to do it. So I'm holding myself, by telling you this, I got to hold myself accountable, and I got to be putting my one video up a week on YouTube, whether I think it's good or not. It's got to get done.
Yeah, you're right. YouTube is tough. So I've been putting this type of content out on YouTube now for 8 months or so. And it very much is, you're right. You put it out there and you're expecting one thing, and it never pops as quickly as you think it is. Right. And you just kind of have to have, you have to have the confidence to be consistent on it. And, the biggest thing that, I kind of look at is YouTube, specifically for real estate. YouTube is the second largest search engine, only to Google, right? And Google points a lot of its stuff towards YouTube these days. So the girl that's doing those videos, it sounds like she's doing local content that's around her community, that's about real estate, about these real estate related questions. So when people go and search for some of this stuff, she's popping up and they watch one of her videos, and then YouTube suggests some other stuff, and she's able to kind of build rapport through video, which I think is really super powerful. And I think that's everyone's regret these days, right? Is that we didn't start YouTube 4 years ago, but you live and you learn, and now's as good a time as any. So do you, Ryan, have any specific routines around kind of when you do video? Like, are you trying to do videos every single day, every week, or what does that look like for you?
So I commit myself to one solid piece of content that I put out every week. And I like to put it out Monday mornings between 7 and 8. And that keeps me top of mind. If I can get another one out or something like that, I do. The rest of what I put out is usually just personal stuff, or like if something big like topic comes up and I want to blast it out real quick, I'll put it up. But like something that I put a lot of energy and effort into and thought is one solid video that I put out every week. And that's pretty much been the primary way that I've grown my business. So I'm not like most lenders. I would say 80 to 90% of my business is self-generated. And so that's just from putting the videos out there and being top of mind. My sphere, I wear these I Love Mortgage shirts. It's on my profile. Like people they know, like no one doesn't know what I do that's my friend on social media. So I'm the first one they think of when they think of, oh, I need to refinance, I need to purchase, I need to sell. They call me up first. And I think that's the key with social media, is just staying top of mind and putting quick little tidbits out there. Whereas we talked about YouTube is more so of you have to play the algorithm and you have to kind of see what's working in the real estate like YouTube formula, and then just kind of going from there. So it's a little different strategy. So I think a lot of people could start with social media like today and start having success with their sphere. If you don't have 5,000 friends, you should be adding 20 new friends a day, and not people within the industry. These need to be friends of friends, people that aren't in real estate, because those are the ones that are going to be your clients, not lenders, title, they're realtors. So I think that would be my biggest tip in terms of video.
Yeah. The girl that has had a bunch of success with YouTube, did she have a nice, like one thing I was actually talking to a buddy of mine before this call was he's thinking about doing videos, and he's like, Jeff, your videos look great. You have a nice camera, and I know you have a nice camera, but what I was trying to encourage him is, a lot of times the iPhone, I've seen people do stuff on YouTube now with iPhones that is just as good, and it's just starting, right?
Get a 12. If you're going to invest in anything, get an iPhone 12, because the stabilization is so good. You don't even need a gimbal. I literally just put it on a selfie stick and then, just walk around. I don't waste my time with a big old gimbal and batteries and stuff like that. if you're not in an echoey room, you don't even need to put a lav mic on most of the time if it's not super windy. So I like to do a lot of my stuff outside because I don't have to worry about the reverb like in a small room. If you have like a set up office where there's carpet and there's stuff on the walls, it's not going to like have that reverby like gross sound as much. So that will work. But I would say everybody should invest in a good cell phone, whether it's, I would just go top of the line Samsung or iPhone, because those are probably the best ones out there right now. Maybe the Pixel might be another good one, but just get the flagship, like get the best one that's going to give you, it's not really the bells and whistles, it's just the features. You need good stabilization, it needs to just perform well and have good audio, and that's it. And then if you can just edit it from the phone and just post.
Yeah. And you don't need anything crazy, right? And there's this weird thing where we get so caught up in the quality, but then we also understand that our first videos probably aren't going to get looked at that much. And I actually look at that as a benefit, right? The first 15 videos I posted on this After the License channel was done through my webcam. No one's, like a couple dozen people have seen them, but you need to get those videos out there. And so you want it to be good. You want it to be the best quality that you can do, but just getting stuff out there is actually more important than it being the best quality and, edited to perfection. And I think that's one hurdle people have to get over with videos. No one feels comfortable right off the bat being in front of a camera and recording themselves. You just kind of have to get over it. You have to do it. You have to post it and then do it again next week and do it the week after that. And like you said, it's the savings account effect. In 6 months, you're going to be years ahead of where you were today. And, you'll start to see some results from it.
So biggest thing I would do is if you're out there watching this, write down on a piece of paper right now, I will shoot my next video on this day at this time. If you do that right now, you're 90% more likely to do that and shoot the video then than if you say, oh yeah, I'm gonna start video next week. So, and then you just do that until it becomes routine. Like if you want to post on Mondays, maybe you shoot on Friday or Saturday or Sunday. And what I like to do usually is shoot during the week and have the week to kind of play with it and edit. If something doesn't go right, I can do it again and give myself a buffer and be a week ahead. So I'm a week ahead. So all my stuff's ready to go to post on Monday. And then that way I'm not like, oh man, it's Sunday night. I got to get my video out. It's not going to get out. And then I miss it. And then I start bad habits of missing my timeline and my dates. So being 1 week ahead is huge.
Yeah, kind of, trying to stay ahead. And, your first video, you can start and shoot it today and schedule it out for next week, right? It doesn't have to go out right away. So I love that piece of advice. So awesome. Yeah. I love talking video, and I love that you're all in on video, because I think it is, it's not even the future, it's right now, right? And I think agents, especially agents who are just starting out in the business, and so many people ask, like, where should I get leads? And yes, you should do all these things you talked about, prospecting and open houses and all networking. All those things are important, but so much is shifting towards having a good internet presence and having content and shooting video. And you can't build rapport anywhere else without face-to-face interaction like you can with video. So I love that you're all in on it.
Right. And I'm glad you brought that up. So people say, well, I don't know where to start. I don't know where to get leads. Well, I would say 100% of anybody that's new that starts, you either need to A, have a mentor that you work under, or B, have a team that you work under, or it's both. And everybody should do that for 12 months. I don't care who you are, how great you think you are, how many people you know. It's all about at-bats in the beginning and building your confidence about this industry. So even if you're making a fraction of what you would make on your own, you're getting those at-bats that you would never get if you're just out there trying to do it yourself. Now, don't fall in the trap that most people do, is they start relying on those leads and they didn't build their own personal brand at the same time. So you need to get on a team where they're supplying you with help, whether you're working some of their leads or they're throwing you a bone here and there just to kind of keep your head above water as you're figuring this out, or they just supply you with leads and you're able to have all those conversations. But with that, you need to schedule in your video and your networking and your door knocking and whatever your strategy is. You can't just let your own personal brand go to the wayside because you're working someone else's leads, because a good team has a system. They bring in new people, they feed them leads, and the people stay on because of the support that they're continued to get by staying on that team. They may not be on the leads team anymore, but they stay within that network because of systems that maybe are provided or are a fraction of the cost because they're split between the whole team. So, that's like kind of my big thing is I mentored for a year. Mine was a little bit different than most people in this industry is I was 100% commission as a lender, which most aren't right off the gate. And my boss would pretty much, he knew what I was making. So the first few months, if I was like really down and like couldn't get anything, he'd throw me one here or there. I think he threw me three in the year that I worked for him, but three were enough to get me through those times where I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna, pay my mortgage or whatever. So get a good mentor, get under a good team, and I think that will prevent you from burning out in the first year like most people do.
With this industry, you just don't know what you don't know. And it seems easy, right? We get so many things, HGTV and these $1 million listings, and real estate looks easy, right? It feels like everyone's making millions of dollars. It's just not that, right? And so being with a mentor, being with a team that can show you the ropes, can have your back, can get you some more at-bats with some leads, and even be something that you can lean on when you're talking to clients, because especially if it's people in your sphere of influence, your database, that they know you're brand new. Having a team or a mentor that you can lean on of, hey, I might be new, but I've got this much experience behind me, I think is so powerful. So love that advice. Yep. So some of these other questions, we touched on kind of the routine thing. We talked on some advice for starting out. Like, what about you personally? Like, are there any things you do like daily for success? Podcasts you listen to, books you recommend, any other like morning routines that you have that you have helped you in kind of growing your business?
I've done so many things over the years, like listen to a ton of people and things like that. And now I kind of just focus on, I try to get my meditation in at least 15 minutes a day just to kind of clear my mind. I try to get some sort of exercise in at least 3 to 5 days a week. And then setting my goal, like what's the big to do? And like now I'm tapering it down. Is I used to put too much on my plate and then get overwhelmed. So now it's like, what's the number one thing that's going to move the needle for me for like my next progression? And that's what I'm going to work on today. And the great thing is if you crush that one thing, you may work a lot less, because my whole philosophy is work smart, not hard. You don't have to be grinding 18 hours a day, day in, day out for the rest of your life. Is you work hard, find a system that works for you, and then work that system. And so it's just putting those things in place. Get your exercise in, because if you're not healthy, your mind's not healthy, your body's not healthy, it's hard to be motivated. So get your exercise, get your meditation in, because that's going to help you just clear your mind and open it up to new ideas. And then you're going to be satisfied with yourself at the end of the day if you know you did everything that you could with the number one thing that's going to move that needle, whether it's your phone calls, making your video, connecting with new people. If you do that every single day over the course of 2 years, because that's really what it is. It's 2 years. You're going to grind and want to quit for the next 2 years in this business. And if you don't, you're extremely lucky. I couldn't tell you how many times I was down to my last dollar the first 2 years in this business. But since I persevered and I got through it, now it's just such a rewarding field to be in that I would have been so mad at myself if I let myself like just quit in those first 2 years where it was tough. So that's kind of my thoughts on routines and sticking with it.
And fantastic advice. I think something we can all work on. I know I have to work on tailoring down what I focus on, right? It's so easy to get caught up in the next big idea or marketing strategy or whatever it is, when in reality I agree. I think we need to try and do less in a lot of cases and then focus on just stay focused, right? I think a lot of people struggle with
at those few things you pick.
Yes. And even with content, sometimes it's easy to be like, I want to create all this content when it's like, great, but start with one, right? Figure out what the next video is, do that, roll that out, and then work on the next one, right? And we all get kind of caught up with that. So I think that's
I have friends that call me all the day. Ryan, I want to do this video. I want to do this video. I want to do this video. I want to do this one. Okay, what was the last one you did? Oh, I haven't done one yet. Well, I was like, just pick one and do it. Well, I want to do all these. I'm like, it's great. Just write one down, and you can't even, don't even allow yourself to think about the next video until that one's done. And then you can brainstorm. But then once you pick the second video, you're not allowed to think of any other video until the second one's done. And then you brainstorm again. And then you'll have this huge long list, and then you don't even have to brainstorm anymore. You just go through and pick, okay, that's the video I'm going to do this week.
Yep. but it's the, what is it called? Analysis by, or paralysis by analysis, whatever it is, right? We get so caught up in wanting to do it all. We don't do the one thing or the one specific thing. So fantastic advice.
I need a partner with somebody. I can't do it by myself. Well, then you're going to spend all your time trying to find a partner to do it with you. And then they're going to be just like you and they're going to bail and then nothing gets done, or you start and then you don't do the next one because they're busy. So you got to just rely on yourself. Just do it.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. So I had a business partner, and he said every time someone says we need to do something, they really mean like me, right? Like we really means me, and I love that. And I know you're a big gym guy. Like that was always my thing. I never liked going to the gym with someone else because I didn't want to build that routine of, having to wait for someone else to go to the gym. I just wanted to do it on my own time and build my own habits and build my own routine, right? I never quite understood that of, needing a partner to do it, but, so I really like that piece of advice is anything that feels like you need someone else, really you should try and figure out how to do it yourself. And then, if other people come along for the journey at some point, that's great, but you need to be relying on yourself, So great stuff. Anything else I missed in some of the questions I sent over to you, or anything else, advice you have, or books you've read that have been powerful for you, or anything else? So far, this video and interview has been fantastic. So I appreciate everything, all the insights you've had so far.
Yeah, for sure. I think in terms of books, and YouTube and watching these like gurus is just don't get overwhelmed with it, because I've been overwhelmed and I try too many things and then you just get nothing done. It's just find what suits you and just do you. Just be yourself, put yourself out there, be authentic. And then whether you like doing phone calls, you like meeting in person, you like doing video. Like me, I knew I'm way better at making video than I am at phone calls and I am with people in person. Doesn't mean I'm bad at the other two, but I'm just way better and more comfortable and feel more productive with video. So I went 100% all in on that. And so for you, it might be door knocking, it might be networking events, it might be, cold calling, FISBOs, who knows? I mean, there's so many ways to be successful in this business. So try a few things, narrow it down, and it might take you a while to find out what is best for you. But once you find it, just go 100% on it. And I guess the last thing I'd close with is you have to have a business building platform. You need to do this. As soon as you know 100% you're going to stick in this business, you have to start with a solid base. You have to have a custom to you IDX website where you can get people off of Zillow. It has to go to your website that's branded to you, that when someone wants to look at homes, they go to your site. 2, it needs to be connected to a CRM. You have to be able to collect leads that come in, that schedule appointments, and it needs to have a smart follow-up system. It needs to be able to determine how they came in and then divvy out those leads so where when you open up, they're going to have a ranking score and it says, okay, here's your green, here's your, these people are at the top, they're almost 100% ready to buy. And then it trickles down so you know who to call, but then also it's dripping content to those people based off of how they're interacting with your website. So if they start changing their searches, the emails that they get with the list of homes is going to be tailored based off of how they're making those adjustments. And then also the text and email drips need to be pre-made in there, because you're not going to go in there and just make a bunch yourself. Everybody says they are. I've said I am. It needs to be pre-built. So I highly recommend that people get onto some sort of platform right off the gate so that you can look professional. And the reason I say this is it took me until probably about 6 months ago that I invested in one of these systems that I help my agents with, my agent partners. So one of my buddy was transitioning from doing mostly flips and things like that are almost non-existent now. He's like, dude, I gotta go back to regular real estate resale because those deals are gone. So we set him up with the site, we got him rolling, and just because he did that didn't make him successful overnight, but it gave him the tools and it let people know like, oh, this guy's legit. This guy's like really good at what he does. And now he's already made more in this, we're not even at the half of the year, than he's ever made in a full year of real estate before. Think of that. That's bonkers.
Wow.
So, and he's been doing it for like 12 or 13 years. So in 5 months, he's made more than he's ever made in a 12-month period prior to this, because he has systems in place now and he has that branding and now he's getting himself out there. Just goes, oh yeah, go to my website. And then people go there and they stick. And so then they may not every person's going to register on the website, but they're going back to it, and then they're going to Facebook message him, or they're going to find his number on there and they're going to call him, or they're going to text him. And that's the key, is making whatever you do sticky. So if you post stuff on social media and you send them to Armless, you might as well just throw that away. Like, people aren't going to stick on the Armless website. They're not. Yeah. And nothing on there is good. So you have to have your own thing. So when you send, like, you could do like show a cool house, but it goes back to your link. So people go on there, and guess what they're going to do? They're just going to start browsing and searching and searching. You post the next one, they're going to go back on, browse and search. And then they're going to Facebook message you, and it's like, oh, I found this house on your website. Can you tell me more details? That's how it's done. That's how you grow your business in this day and age.
Yeah. And if all those things Ryan talks about sounds like super complicated, and the reality is like, this is where business is heading. And I couldn't agree with you more. And those sites exist. We talk about smart campaigns that incorporate email and text message and automated property alerts and market reports and all this different stuff. If you're using it, your competition is, right? And if you're not using it and you're not using that automation, you're making your life a little bit more difficult, but also you're just not going to stack up with the competition. And to be competitive in today's day and age, like, that's also what the consumer expects. They're used to seeing the Zillows of the world, and they're used to kind of having this stuff tailored to them and delivered to their inbox. And if you're just trying to piece stuff together with your own MLS and manual text messages, you can do it probably, but it's not going to be as efficient or effective, and it's probably going to take you a ton of time. So I think that's great advice.
Right. And Zillow's not accurate. Your IDX website is. That's another big sell that you tell people to go there. So I don't know. I love systems. I love technology, but you have to make sure that you choose the right horse that's going to be the best long-term, because the worst thing to do is you go cheap, or you don't know what you're doing, and you get into a system that's not the greatest. And then 3 or 4 or 5 years from now, you have to switch and take all of that stuff and migrate it to a new one. And you might as well just get the best right from the gate. And it doesn't mean you have to spend a fortune, but it just means that you're investing in your future. And so I think that's just important for people to know. I wish I would have done that in the beginning and had something set up that way. That's the one thing I recommend, is make sure you get on that platform. And if anybody has questions about video, about, this type of like a business platform, they can always reach out. I'm always happy to help. I was just like you once, where I was just fumbling around trying to figure it out. And luckily I had good people in my corner that, helped push me in the right direction.
Fantastic. And I'll make sure to put all your social media links and contact info in the description of the YouTube video, and then we'll link that on the podcast as well. So awesome, Ryan. I really appreciate you being on here today, man. I think everyone who's listened kind of got a ton of value from, what to expect and what to look for in a lender partner, to some of the marketing and technology and video stuff. So appreciate you, as always, kind of being on here and being a great partner to me. And we'll have to get you on again here in the future as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. I had a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. Talk to you soon.
See you later.